Hi guys, it's Joy, and today this is such, y'all. This topic is it's very overwhelming. The topic of Eugenia Cooney, and honestly, I'm kind of looking at it, and I've been diving into this rabbit hole, and I'm like, where do you begin? But I feel like on many levels, I can understand and I can relate to a lot of what Eugenia is going through. Obviously, not in the same scale or scope, but I feel really compelled to talk about her situation, and I want you guys to know I'm going to do everything in the utmost respect with everybody involved. But it's just kind of like, where do you start? Like I've been saying, I think I'm going to have to make this a series because there's so much information. I wanted to focus on just one aspect today, but then it led me down like 10 or 12 other rabbit holes. Before I start this video, guys, I actually have 3 other videos I've done on Eugenia that will give more context to this one. So I have part 1, part 2, and part 3, which are some deep dives into some of her situation. Make sure and go check those out if you haven't seen them before you watch this one, because this one might not make as much sense. As well, I have tons of other content. I've got content on, I'm doing a series on Britney Spears, which I think is really parallel to Eugenia Cooney, Shane Dawson. I've talked about Trisha Paytas and some of her health stuff, and everybody's favorite, Onion, as well as I have a few other videos. I have links in the description. I'll have links in the cards. Make sure to go check those out. And if you like videos like this, subscribe, hit notifications so you can know when I upload, and give me a big like to help me out. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you think. Okay, on with the video. So I'm going to try to condense this as much as I can, but I want to start this off by talking about Eugenia and Eugenia's mother. So for those of you that don't know, I'm sure most people know who are watching this. Eugenia is a very popular YouTuber and streamer, and she has an ED. If I say the eating issues, stands for ED, or the A word stands for eating issues. So please infer that. I'm trying to stick within the respectful guidelines of YouTube. Now, I was going to say the controversy started. It's been ongoing, but what I want to talk about, she basically has been on YouTube for several years, I think maybe since 2013, and she's just gotten thinner and thinner. I'm somebody who used to really defend Eugenia because I said, look, we don't know what's wrong with her health. I'm somebody who's been an advocate and speaking out about my health battles and health issues. I know how mean people can be about that. What if she has some type of hidden health issue where she's really thin and she don't want to talk about it? My whole point was to say we don't know what's going on, but the problem is that now we have more insight because Eugenia has actually admitted to having an ED. And why this is becoming a popular topic and why this is concerning is because she went to therapy, or she went to rehab for this for 30 days. And then Shane Dawson did a big documentary on her that basically painted this really positive picture that she's recovered. I think at some point, and if you guys want to see this, let me know. I would like to cover this because a lot of people are putting a lot of blame on Shane, and they're really ripping apart the documentary, which, and by the way, in seeing a lot of what they've said, I totally understand. But I'm also looking at this going, here's the thing. I can't help but feel that Shane is well-intended. I could be totally wrong. But when I try to analyze who he is, I think he has the best of intentions for people. But just because you have good intentions doesn't mean you always execute everything correctly. But when you look at all the players involved, like Katie Morton, that's a whole nother rabbit hole. There's just there's so much going on to this. But Katie Morton was the therapist that was there, in the Shane documentary with this, and helping kind of, prepare Shane for what to do, what not to do, how to set this up. But then she was also the person that helped Jaclyn Glenn get Eugenia the treatment and the help that she needed, which Eugenia completely left out, but also completely slapped in the face and insulted Jaclyn Glenn and her friends. It's a crazy story. Where do you begin? But today I want to do some focusing on Eugenia's mother. I firsthand know what it is to have a mom that lives through you as kind of a show mom. Mine was very different. I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s, and I was a professional singer and performer. But again, very different situation. We didn't have social media back then. But the more I look at Eugenia Cooney's mother, the more I look at the situation, I see a woman who's trying to live through her daughter, and really on some level revels in and enjoys the fame that Eugenia has, but knows that she is either not capable or that it doesn't have the same charismatic talents to do what Eugenia does. So she kind of lives through her. But here's what I want to focus on. There are just a couple things in this video. First of all, I want to focus on some things Jaclyn Glenn had said about this situation, and I want to compare it to some of the things Eugenia said in the documentary. I want to talk about a couple of odd things with the documentary that I saw that I feel like are very, very concerning. And then the last one I want to talk about, and I know this is making the rounds everywhere, but it has to do with Eugenia and the dynamic of the house that she lives in. The fact that there's all these crazy locks on the doors in the house and she doesn't know how to get out of them or use them. The fact that she has to ask for permission to walk upstairs and then there's a bunch of yelling and screaming. And the fact that in the past, Eugenia has talked about her family and how they'll just come in her room and yell and scream and take things out at her, that we've heard that there's not a real healthy dynamic there. Now, whether or not that's changed over the years, I don't think it's for us to say. I just think there's enough weird stuff going on that I feel like this needs a hard look. I really like Eugenia. I've interacted with her before. She's been incredibly supportive and nice of me. I wish nothing but good things for her, but I am concerned. We're watching a type of Britney Spears situation. We're watching somebody that's trapped. And in Eugenia's case, I don't even know that she knows she's trapped. Or maybe she's just completely submitted to the situation. Okay, so let me go ahead and dive in first. So I want to play what Eugenia has said about her getting treatment. And this is with Shane Dawson. And then I want you to hear Jaclyn Glenn's take. So it's some quick clips. I want you to hear it from her because I always like to put clips up of people if I can, because I like you guys to get the direct context of things if it's possible. So let's go ahead and take a look at that.
What's down here?
Oh yeah, I can show you guys that too if you want. Yeah, of course.
Have you had any friends or anybody come over and hang out? Because I know there was a lot of people just being like, oh, your friends aren't helping, your friends aren't doing anything, whatever. But I'm sure behind the scenes, I'm sure everybody was always reaching out and whatever.
Yeah, there were some people that were. Then there was kind of some people that kind of like really weren't. Really, there was almost like some people that like never really said anything to me like before, but then like later on were kind of like bullying me into like trying to make like decisions for me, and kind of like they were just not wanting to listen to me at all, not really wanting to hear like how I'm feeling. Before they never really seemed to like care much about anything, so I guess that's kind of hard. But then I also have like, you know, good people in my life that like genuinely like really did care. All right, that was my dad, guys. So yeah, he's pretty cool. Did you guys see him?
So I think my question for you is like, was it hard, and is it hard right now to like literally really talk about it? Because I feel like even now it's a little bit like, I don't want to push you too far, but you know, I think, you know, I don't know, I can't imagine what you went through, because I feel like you kind of always have a smile, so I'm like trying to like put myself and see what it was, and I feel like it, like, what was your day-to-day before getting help?
Yeah, and you know, I guess like before, there kind of would be like times where I guess I realized like, hey, like I'm not like eating enough, I really probably should be taking better care of myself. And like I would have people like my mom especially, and like my family and my parents and everything, that would be like, you really should be like, you know, taking care of yourself better and like eating more, and you know, like would be like bringing that up to me. And obviously the internet, there was a lot of people talking about that. I guess it's like in a way like kind of like maybe even like smoking or something, where like people kind of like know in their brain like, hey, you know, I should stop this, but it's, and then like sometimes I guess you'll kind of go through periods or like you're better about it, but like it's kind of hard, I guess, to like just like to totally like stop and totally like stop what you're doing and to actually like go and try to like be better and like get help for myself.
When do you remember it starting or having issues with?
Yeah, and you know, it's kind of weird with me, I guess, because like even like when I was younger, I really always have been like pretty like naturally like small, I guess. I mean, like in school, like I dealt with like a lot of bullying and that kind of thing. I think that like definitely like when you have people like not being so nice to you, it can definitely kind of make you feel more insecure and like stick with you kind of. Then I guess kind of like as things were going forward, obviously I was like losing more weight, and I was kind of like not really acknowledging that and kind of just being like, oh, I'm okay, like whatever, and not really like seeing that it was like a really big problem. And then when I just like started making videos and all of that, and my channel started like growing a bit, then there was like certain people that would like make videos about me and like talk about my body a little bit. It kind of like was really affecting me like really badly and like making me feel really bad and like not taking care of myself, like really in like a really bad like mind state. I guess it just kind of was like progressing, and I wasn't like really doing much to like stop that. And I guess like eventually it just like got to the point where I really realized it would be a good idea to like get some help for that.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
getting help.
Right.
So what was it like? Because we've kind of tiptoed around it, but like
Right.
you went somewhere. So
I did,
what
yes.
was that?
So yeah, I was in a like rehab kind of program for it, and it was a really kind of weird experience.
Okay, so that's Eugenia's take on what happened. And here's something that I find interesting in the documentary. She didn't really bring up what caused her to go to therapy. It's kind of like, well, I realized I needed to get help and this, that, and the other. And then we find out that's not the case at all. In fact, that's one big whopping lie. And this is what makes me mad. Everybody is coming down on Shane about it, but at the end of the day, that lie, I feel like, comes from Katie Morton. And this is why I kind of want to do a video about Shane, because everything I'm looking at, and I need to look more into it, I just feel like Shane's been manipulated by Katie Morton and a few other people in this situation, which really, really irritates me, because Shane's not perfect, obviously, but I think he's well-intended. And I think if somebody's well-intended and they're really trying, especially if they're trying to do something good, you know, we shouldn't be too hard on a person like that. Like, otherwise, it's just going to be a bunch of a-hole people on YouTube all trying to attack one another to get attention. Is that really what we want YouTube to become? That's basically what it is, you know? Again, not saying he's innocent, but that's not what happened at all. In fact, what happened, as most of you know who are watching this, is that Jaclyn Glenn and some of Jaclyn Glenn's friends and boyfriend actually had to stage an intervention to get her help. This was nowhere in here. Now, why am I mad at Katie Morton about this? Because in looking at this and analyzing it, Katie Morton helped set up that intervention with Jaclyn Glenn. Did she just decide not to tell Shane about it? Was Shane completely unaware? Did Shane leave it out overall? Did Eugenia's mother or her people say, nope, we're not going to do that? I don't know. That's not for me to say. It just doesn't smell right. But let's hear what Jaclyn has to say about this, and specifically about Eugenia's mother. Let's take a listen.
There's a lot more to the story and to the situation. You know, they glossed over some things that are extremely important in Eugenia's real recovery. The situation has been, her life has been manipulated for years, and it's currently still being manipulated right in front of everyone.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful story, right? Like, it looks like watching Shane's video, it's such like a happy, feel-good.
And we should be happy.
It's completely covering all of that is still there, I think, and could still be a problem. And there are still puppet strings right now being pulled that I like. It's all out there now. I mean, if there's a Shane Dawson video, right, everybody's gonna know at least enough to, I feel like, take the pressure off of me to keep my mouth shut. I did lie to her. I lied to her. We all kind of did. We pretended we were going to go to an escape room, which is a thing that we would regularly do. So it seemed believable to her and her mom. Specifically her mom. Yeah. So I like took screenshots of like pretending that I had gotten tickets and things, and we had a group chat going, and I felt like we all kind of did, being like, we're so excited to go to the escape room. And she came over and we sat her down and we talked to her, and it was pretty clear that she had no intention of getting any kind of help. Like, she said, maybe I'll go see a doctor in like months from now.
Yeah, it was like 3 months later she was going to be heading home to Connecticut, and she would be willing to see a doctor then. So we had to arrange a lot of stuff in advance of this day. This is an intervention. It was heart-wrenching, but what we had to do, we spoke with her, and she for the first time ever in her life admitted that there might have been a problem, and that in a few months she would see a doctor, but at this point
maybe
she was honestly on the brink.
Once they decided that they were going to commit her legally, she was able to leave. Like, the police were on their way because she was on the phone with her mom, who was screaming at me, by the way. She verbatim called me for doing what I was doing.
How could a friend do this, I believe, to her friends? And, I mean, I don't know if you want to share more on it. It was really messed up.
She called the cops on me and tried to have me arrested.
Correct.
So, when Eugenia was trying to leave, we had 2 sets of cops show up. One to take her into care, and one to arrest me for... Clearly, they talked it out, and it was obviously fine. But, like, oh god, and then Edgar, like...
Okay, so there's a lot of a backstory with the mom. Eugenia is an adult. She's, I believe, 24, 25 years old. She's never allowed to go anywhere. It's all completely manipulated by the mother. There is a driver, Edgar. Every hangout with friends is an orchestrated pickup and drop-off by Edgar, who waits outside. And in this situation, when Eugenia called her mom, and her mom was furious, Edgar came into the apartment and was the door.
He like followed me into my apartment. Because I had to go out and I had to tell the mental health professionals that she was trying to leave. And he like followed me into my apartment, was screaming at me. He started on all of my neighbors' doors until he finally got to mine and figured out where my apartment was. And it's like on the door. I was terrified. Like, this was a big guy. He was screaming.
These were not people looking out for Eugenia's best interest. These were people looking for some form of gain and manipulation in a way that this video, the Shane video that came out today, completely glosses over the real problems and makes us completely worried that she's not okay. The mom was discussed in this video as just going back and forth.
They were always together, so it's difficult to imagine a scenario in which her mother wasn't watching every move. But the lawyer was there.
Correct.
The lawyer was there the whole time. By the way, is also my lawyer, and has been... He texted me a couple days ago to give me an update after months. Like, I don't know. It just... I don't know how to feel. This whole thing, to me, feels like they are taking someone like Shane, who clearly is good at shining a positive light on people who might not... I don't even know how to word this. I just feel like, yeah, Eugenia is a great person. I love her. I care about her. But the people surrounding her in her life, I feel like, are... And I think that they were aware of Shane's potential to cover their tracks and make this look like some kind of beautiful recovery story that everyone was in on and rooting for, and it couldn't be further from the truth. I had to fight them so hard to get her into care, and I'm now viewed as like a...
The way her mom screamed at Jaclyn on the phone...
It was terrifying.
Was the biggest red flag of somebody who was their daughter. It was... no mother should fight a daughter failing a psychiatric evaluation and needing to be taken into care. That...
I just don't know how, if I had a daughter, that I would let it get that far without doing something myself.
She hadn't been to a doctor in 5 years.
How does that happen?
5 years. It's the only option.
It's the only thing that we thought that we could do.
We were also fearful that if we were too in her face about it before, that her mom would not have let her continue to hang out with us.
Yes.
And I was terrified of that. Like, and I was walking a fine line the entire time.
And
I know she's going to be... And I maybe other people will be too. I never know what to expect.
I hope she's
All
recovering.
I know is that I'm doing what I think is right, and and not letting a lie persist that this was something that was
Decided on.
or even supported by her family. Like, it wasn't. It wasn't. I had to fight them.
So this is a complete contradiction to the story that Shane has painted. And it's sad. It's very, very sad. And the fact that Eugenia couldn't even be honest and forthcoming with how she actually went about getting this help. And then she was kind of like, oh, well, my parents were concerned, this, that, and the other. I want to talk a little bit about what Jaclyn said. I took some notes because I wanted to make sure like that I get everything out that I want to talk about with this, because it's a really frustrating situation. First of all, Jaclyn and her friends, and forgive me, I don't know her friends' names, and even if I'm not going to remember people's names. It's no disrespect, memory issues. But in listening to this, couple things that I want to point out and that I want to mention. The first one is, and Jaclyn points this out, and everybody else does too. How do you watch your daughter or your family member go through this and you do nothing? How? How do you do that? How do you do that? Second thing that I want to bring up. Why had Eugenia not been to a doctor in 5 years? In 5 flipping years. Now, there's another video where Eugenia sits down with Katie Morton. This will have to be a whole nother video. It's just going to be too much to put in this one, where she's talking about that situation. And she's basically saying, oh, well, I was going to go get help. And my mom and I planned it out. And she switches back and forth on her story a few times about her mom. It's very interesting that she's trying to paint her family in this really positive light, that they're so concerned, but yet they didn't take their daughter to a doctor. And on top of that, Eugenia went to a treatment plan that was only 30 days. Well, what else was she doing outside of that? What was the outpatient? Because we didn't hear much about that. It seemed like the documentary that we heard was a lot of Katie Morton running her mouth. She irritates me the more I look into it. It's really irritating. But, you know, she knows more information than she's either telling, or Shane's in on it and Shane doesn't care. I personally don't believe that. I feel like we've seen enough times that I think Shane has the best of intentions, even if he messes up. That's what I'm going to choose to believe, unless I see evidence. If I see evidence otherwise, then that's different. And I think we should reward good intentions to some extent. Doesn't mean you don't hold people accountable, but reward it, right? 30 days is not enough time when it comes to rehabilitation with this type of situation. And I remember kind of cringing when I saw this, and I was like, oh no. When I saw the situation with Eugenia, and I saw this because I was like, this is not enough time to pass. And just because she looks like she's not as thin, first of all, she still looks way too thin. She still looks like something is wrong. But secondly, this is where people don't understand eating issues and the eating issue mindset, the ED mindset. It's not something that easily goes away. And guys, there's just, and I have videos, go check them out on, as I've said before about Eugenia. This is such a big rabbit hole when it comes to your overall health on this situation. There needs to be a ton of monitoring. Like, did they monitor what type of mineral and vitamin deficiencies she has and what plan there is to try to work on getting those up? Like, there's all types of stuff like that we didn't hear. In fact, it just felt like a lot of Katie Morton running her mouth. There was maybe what seemed like 15-ish minutes of talking about real issues. And then it was a lot of like, oh, let's do a house tour and makeup and stuff. And I get Shane trying to paint this in a positive light. And I also understand people were super pressuring for him to cover this situation. And he probably figured he had to do it really delicately, because I'm sure between him and his team working with Eugenia and Eugenia's mom, that they realized that they were going to have to kind of do this in a delicate balance, which I get. But I'm just trying to sit here and understand, you know, Eugenia and her mother have been upset at what people have been saying about her family, but let's be very real. How could her family let her get to that point and not even have her see a doctor? Are they keeping her from a doctor? And then that's another question that I have. And here's why I'm bringing this up. So as Jaclyn, as you hear, tells a story, she says that everything is orchestrated and highly manipulated and highly controlled with Eugenia. Eugenia has a driver that literally just sits there and waits for her when she actually does do social events, which is rare at all. And then the driver was coming on doors and screaming for her and following Jaclyn in and yelling at her and cursing at her. Is Eugenia's life so controlled that her family doesn't want her to go to a doctor because a doctor would do what they could do to put Eugenia in a program. I'm not saying that's the case, but I am saying there's enough concern for how highly controlled it is, and not just controlled, the outbursts. Because then we hear from Jaclyn. Also, let me tell you guys, I don't know Jaclyn on a super personal level. I've had a few interactions with her. She has always been kind and respectful to me, and I really like Jaclyn, and I've always appreciated that. And I will believe Jaclyn with what she says. As when you get to this point of being a YouTuber, I've had to learn this the hard way, and I hate that I've had to be this person. When you deal with anything that is going to be controversial, or you start to feel like you can't trust people, record everything. I was never that person before YouTube, and I have to now to CYA, to cover my assets, so to speak. I wish that could have been recorded, just to have. But I completely believe Jaclyn when she said her mother got on the phone, cursed her out, and said they're her daughter. What mother that cares about their child when a team of highly trained professionals comes in and says we need to take her against her will because she is in such a bad state that she is near the point of not being on earth? What mother rages at the people that put that together and then says, no, you're not taking her, you're all... Why was all of this left out of the Shane Dawson documentary? Why did Katie Morton not talk about this stuff to Shane? Is it because Katie Morton, more than being a quote-unquote therapist, is just another YouTube social climber? Yeah, I've also learned on this platform, you have no idea. I would say 95% of the YouTubers you're going to meet on this platform are just really crappy, attention-seeking social climbers. And they will do anything for a few nickels and more attention. It's gross. It's, I'm a little more of, I feel like this is going to sound dramatic, but I like to make myself a little bit more of a lone wolf at this point on YouTube. I've also watched so many people that I was kind to and I helped backstab me when they could get more views in doing that and lie about me and say horrible things. That's why, if you guys want to understand why I have a lot of empathy for Shane and people sometimes don't get it, it's because I've been in Shane's position and I get what that's like. I can't understand how any mother who cares about their child is mad at the people who set up the intervention for you to do a documentary about how great she's doing. Was there any I'm sorry to Jaclyn? And furthermore, if her mother's gonna go that on Jaclyn when she doesn't know Jaclyn that well, how does she treat Eugenia? Now, I want to talk about this because, and this is a bit of a sensitive topic for me, but you guys have heard me talk about my upbringing. I had a parent that every morning, it was twice a day, there was what I now call programming. My parent woke my sibling and I up screaming anywhere from half hour to an hour every single morning. Before school, on weekends, didn't matter for years. And then when the parent came home, it was a half hour to an hour of screaming. And it could be about anything. It could be, I left a sock in the middle of the floor a week ago and that caused her to have a bad day because so-and-so was mad at her at her job. There was a of not knowing how to handle your emotions or your stress and a complete lack of ability, not even ability, any will to want to even get help for that. I remember one time my mother did go to a doctor and kind of talked about this, and basically the doctor said, you're under too much stress. And I was 10 years old, 9 or 10, and my mom came to me and said, so you and your sibling are putting me under too much stress, and that's going to end my life on this planet. So you guys need to back off. And as an adult now, and going through all of that, and going through people yelling and screaming and doing all of that based programming, and having to really unravel all of that, I've come out of that and I've gone, wow, you took no responsibility for how you acted. Your actions are making yourself a better person. And unfortunately, by the way, I love all my boomers in my audience. Hey y'all, hey, I love you. And you know what? If you're an awesome boomer, I'm so happy that you are here. So please don't take what I'm about to say offensively. Many of the parents of my generation, some of the baby boomers, not all, there were a lot of great ones. but there were enough that acted just like, I can't tell you how many friends I had that had parents like this, very reactive, didn't know how to control their emotions, took everything out on their children. Like very, very textbook for the way in the 80s and 90s, many of us grew up. Hashtag not all boomers. If you're a great boomer, we're happy to have you here. And I know there's a lot of them, but you know, I feel like we can all admit that our generations have strengths and weaknesses, right? I think we can all admit that. So, you know, and so I get angry for the people that make my generation look bad. So that's what I'm referring to. It's kind of like a cultural norm. And the whole name of the game was make sure to protect the image of the parent at all costs. And I feel like that's what we're seeing with Eugenia. And this is why I wanted to focus specifically on this topic in this video, is the fact that her mother, you know, is so big on her reputation and how she looks to the world, that when her daughter actually was going to be forced to get help, she screamed and cursed at and threatened and lied to the police about Jaclyn. If that's what she would do to a friend who's trying to make sure her daughter's existence stays on this planet, what is she doing to Eugenia? That's the big point of this video. And I really want to dive down this rabbit hole with Eugenia's mother. There are a lot of things I see about her mom that honestly feel very parallel with some of the situations that I grew up in. It breaks my heart. And we've also seen a really big attitude shift in general in Eugenia over the years. I want to talk about that because, again, what's sad to me is I feel like on some level we're watching somebody who's trapped like Britney Spears. And I'm not saying that's necessarily the case, but I don't understand some of this. I do want to go over a couple more things. I was going to go over into a few more topics in this. I think they'll have to be for another video because, like I said, this is just so much of a rabbit hole and I have so much to say about this. So, Eugenia apparently is not allowed to go anywhere. And it's weird. When Shane asked her about her friends, do you ever have friends over? She didn't answer that. Did you notice she kind of and granted, they kind of talked about other things, so I give credit there, but she did kind of sidestep that question. As well, the driver was there, orchestrated the pickup and the drop-off with Edgar. Edgar followed him, and that's another thing. So not only is the mother screaming and yelling, she's employing people to scream and yell on behalf of her will and what she wants done to other people. How on earth do you as a person feel entitled to do that to somebody who's trying to help your daughter, not, you know, her existence stay here? I just don't get it. Another one that they said, the mom watches every single move. And I think I'll just have to do a whole nother video about this. And that's why I want to talk about the situation with Eugenia having to ask for permission to go upstairs and what sounds like a fight ensuing. And it seems like Eugenia is in a constant place of having to make excuses for her family's bad behavior. If everything is going on the way I'm seeing this go on, there are a couple other elements to this too. I think a lot of what people are saying when they talk about Eugenia and toxic positivity, I get it. People in Eugenia's situation, if it is how it looks, and I'm not saying it is because we don't fully know, like the way I grew up, I learned to be a people pleaser. And it's something it's something over the last couple years I've really uncovered and I'm still trying to work on, where you try to please everybody and you feel like you have to kind of justify everything and justify your existence, and you're constantly trying to make excuses for the bad behavior of the people around you because because you know if you don't do everything you can to protect their immaculate image, you're gonna get it. And I wonder if that's a survival mechanism for her, and that's part of why she's so nice. Again, I could do so many video topics on this. It's crazy. This is another one that I thought was really weird that I want to talk about. Jaclyn and Eugenia apparently share the same lawyer. So the lawyer that Jaclyn was working with this situation is Eugenia's lawyer, and he was there the whole time. And then in Shane's documentary, we don't see the mother. In fact, we know that the mother was around, but then she bolted. But then the lawyer is the one that opens the door and is hanging around. Who does that? Who has a situation like that? I don't know. So these are some of the main points that I wanted to hit. I definitely think this is a rabbit hole. I definitely think it should be explored more. And again, forgive me, I was going to make this video, I was going to add some more stuff in here, but I think this is just getting too long. So let me know if you would like to see a whole series about this. These are not like, how do I put this? These aren't necessarily easy videos to do. These videos are, you know, not real light in nature, but I think this is important stuff to talk about. I think this is very, very important stuff to talk about. And I think that bringing these topics up could be helpful to a lot of people, and maybe one day Eugenia herself. And like I said, I wish Eugenia all the best. And I think she's a well-intentioned, sweet girl that means well. I just see somebody who is under complete control of her mother and her family, and a family that is most likely mistreated. You know what? If anything, they are medically mistreating her. Let's put it that way. If they're not gonna, she hasn't seen a doctor in 5 years, and they know what's going on with her, they've known and haven't tried to get her help, and they helped her set up this documentary of a redemption, lying throughout about it. I don't think this is a lot. You know, again, we don't know 100% for sure, but I don't think this is conjecture. Something fishy is going on here, and I think it should have a deeper look. And what's sad is there are a lot of people who are in similar situations to Eugenia with their family. They're the one that everybody relies on, but they are also the kicking dog, and it's their job to make everybody look good no matter what their awful behaviors are and take all that crap. And if Eugenia's life is so manipulated and controlled, and she's people-pleasing and running around trying to make sure everybody's happy and everything's okay so nobody's mean to her, of course she's going to do things to find control in her life, which a lot of times, majority of the times, that's where an ED will stem from. Okay guys, if you like this video, please help me and my channel out and give me a big thumbs up. Like the video, subscribe, and then hit notifications so you can know when I upload. Comment, do you think that I'm onto something? Do you think I'm on the right path with some of what I'm seeing? Do you think that I'm off base? Let me know. I'd be happy to hear it from you guys. I like to hear what you guys think, and I always appreciate your opinions. And guys, if you know people you think that could benefit from this, or people who would like this content, make sure and share with them. I'd appreciate it. And if you haven't yet, like I said before, go check out parts 1, 2, 3. I think there's 3 parts to this. Go check those out for some more context on this situation, as well as I have videos on Shane Dawson, Trisha Paytas, Onision, and I'm also doing a series on Britney Spears. Her situation is heartbreaking for me, and I ask questions. Is she really mentally ill, or is she living in a situation that's so toxic nobody can be sane in it? I feel like in our society, we put too much emphasis on women when they're being mistreated and how the women react versus the mistreatment they're getting and why are they being mistreated and why is it allowed to happen. That's something I like to talk about on this channel. Okay guys, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna make some more videos, but until the next video, thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for listening, and I'm wishing everybody lots of love, and until the next video, I'm giving you guys hugs and kisses. Bye guys!